The comment responses from all of you have absolutely been overwhelming. And hearing from people all over the world just kind of thanking me for making these videos where someone's just kind of speaking from the heart on the pros and cons of living below their means. So I wanted to make a third version because you guys keep asking questions and asking for more. I'll tell you, it's not easy to be vulnerable at times, sharing whether it's my medical history and various issues I've faced in life to get me through it. But I personally felt like there wasn't enough content out there on YouTube with people that have been through hell and back. And I just wanted to inspire maybe someone, just even one person struggling with direction, feeling stuck in a job, feeling behind in finances, and ultimately not satisfied where they are in life. That was my goal with this. If you don't know, I battled cancer twice. I've been on $250,000 in debt, alcoholism, depression, anxiety, multiple learning disabilities. One's not enough. I need several. I was raised by a single mother that worked 3 jobs to take care of my 2 sisters. And I have no financial background. In fact, I barely have a high school diploma. I didn't graduate with my team. And I'm here to say that if I can do it and get my stuff together, you absolutely can. So no matter your past, your present, there's always a way. And I hope many of you keep the comments coming to give hope to others that also want to get back control of their life and find happiness and joy and not the financial burden that some of us feel in life. So with that, let's jump into part 3 of how I've lived off of half of my income for the past decade. If you and your partner are not on the same page, you will likely fail. Early in my marriage, which I'm actually coming up in 20 years, I've been married in September, I was the problem with money. I believe credit cards were just normal way of doing life, and I just charged everything, and I didn't think it was a big deal at all. Had I not gotten on the same page with my wife, I assure you it probably would have ended in divorce and we wouldn't be coming up on 20 years together. In fact, the number one cause of divorce in the US, which half of you that watch my videos are from the US, is, you guessed it, it's money. It's the number one cause of divorce, and I'm sure in the other countries is the highest, if not the second highest. If my wife was working hard to save everything and I'm just spending everything aimlessly, it would have been a disaster. I can't imagine how difficult it would be to get ahead financially without alignment from my wife. We share a bank account, and we have for almost 20 years, and respectfully, to each other, we make all major financial decisions together. And if there is something impulsive, we just kind of share out of respect to each other buying it. But normally we never push back on that sort of stuff. We're pretty aligned at this point. But respect each other. Get on the same page as your partner if you are in a relationship, and you'll be better off with your finances. If I was to give advice to my younger self, luckily it worked out for me, but have a partner that actually has some sort of financial literacy or is willing to learn, because in my opinion, you're kind of doomed if you don't. Your desire to keep working will fade. All of us have a window. All of us have a window of earning potential. Whether you put in the work now to get new skills, get a second job, new jobs to advance for a title. For me, early on, I jumped at any opportunity I could to move up the corporate ladder, and I was with the company for 20 years. I moved cross country 3 different times. Now that might not be for everyone, but what it did for me is it catapulted over my peers of mine that weren't very flexible with either moving or wanting to take on more roles. Now I'm not saying you need to move, but I am saying put in the work now, because down the road, you're not going to want to work this hard. But going through the motions and settling won't earn you more, and it won't make it easier to live below your means. Doing nothing isn't a great plan, and your income makes it much easier to live below your means. So when you earn more, don't blow it. Save it, invest it. On any promotion, any raise I've gotten over the past 10 years, I've just invested it or saved it, and I haven't spent it. Maybe your strategy for living below your means is not to cut anything else. It's to earn more. That's part of living below your means. It's not necessarily about spending less. It's about earning more and keeping maybe the same lifestyle that you have. That's how I did it. I reduced as much as I possibly could, but I found ways to invest in myself to earn as much as humanly possible and even double my income. Today, I earn double what I did 10 years ago, but I spend less today than I did 10 years ago. The highest earning age group is anywhere from 35 all the way up to 55. The question for you is, what are you going to do with that earning window? And the sad thing is it does pass us by. And the amount of people, as I've mentioned in one of my other videos, I worked in retail, that were vice presidents or running large markets that are now GMs, running a store, working the weekends. Like, they didn't have a very good plan and they didn't maximize their window. And now they're forced into a job that they won't want to do. And the reality is that is a reality. That all of us have a window and eventually it passes by. But what are you going to do with your window? Don't listen to me, at least not exclusively. I received a comment on my first video. I got a couple. One was, take the hat off. Thanks, Todd. I guess his name was Todd. I'm making that up. But another commenter basically said he turned me off, meaning me, after I said I don't budget, and he's going back to Dave Ramsey. Well, don't listen exclusively to me and don't exclusively listen to Dave. In fact, don't listen to anybody exclusively. Everyone has a different situation. Everybody. No two of you watching this video have the same exact situation. So no one can tell you exactly how to live your life or how you should spend your money or how you should save. You should listen to a lot of different people, how they do it, and make the decision on what's best for you and your family. Look, I am not competing with Dave, and Dave doesn't know who the hell I am. But be curious from a wide range of people and find what works best for you. I learned a lot from Dave Ramsey. I learned a lot from the FIRE community. But I just want control of my life. And I learned a ton from books. I applied my learnings from a broad spectrum of different platforms, and I found what works for me. To me, labels are just silly. So I don't say I'm FIRE, I don't say I'm a Ramseyite, or anything else. I'm me, and I do it my way through a broad range of different learnings, and I apply those knowledge. And you should do the same thing. I'm unapologetically myself, and I'm just trying to be honest and real and say that you're not alone with dealing with some of this stuff. I have different life experience than anybody else because it's my life, and I just wanted to share. But don't listen to me exclusively. Learn from as many people and lifestyles as possible and find what works best for you. That is the key to success. It's time. It's time we have talk with family about holidays. Several years ago, we had the talk with our family about the holidays. And it looks something like this. Let's stop buying gifts for each other for the holidays. I don't know what you want, and you don't know what I want. And I think it'd be smart to just focus on spending time together this holiday. My wife and I, a couple years back, already kind of cut down on our purchases of each other. I think when we were first together in our 20s, early 20s, and got married, it was just like the gifts were as high as the Christmas tree. Today, we get each other 2 or 3 things that we really want, but that's about it. Holidays should be about family, and I think sometimes we forget the meaning of that. Every year we were giving gifts and multiple gifts to family, and most of the time it wasn't stuff that we wanted or needed. So who's that really for at that point? I mean, even at work, it was kind of an unwritten rule that I needed to buy every one of my employees a gift. When I approached all my employees one year and I just said, let's stop doing gifts. We gave a bunch of reasons, including time, energy, and money, but we spoke from the heart, whether it was my family or colleagues at work, and I shared from the heart. Like, what makes the holiday special is seeing you and being with you. So let's not spend the holiday season, all of us stressed out and buying a sweater that I'm going to think is ugly or doesn't fit anyway. Most people were relieved when I was like, let's just stop doing the gifts this year. But a year later, everyone's thankful for that decision, and it just kind of became second nature. So it might be a little awkward to have the talk with your family around the holidays, but it's well worth it. Work went really well. I would say work actually went better than family. I said, let's give back this year instead. And my company and I ended up doing a giant toy drive. It started out just a couple of us, It grew to basically the entire state of New Jersey. It went viral, it made the news, and we ended up donating thousands of gifts to kids in foster care. All because I just said, let's stop and do something different and make a difference in the world. Instead, and kind of shared my passion for foster care, because that's where we ended up adopting our daughter from. And it was probably my greatest Christmas I've ever had in my life. Don't forget what the holiday season is about. It was never supposed to be about gifts. Frugal is about where you spend money and investing in value and making a difference in the world instead. But don't be afraid to speak up with friends and family. I know all of us get a little stressed around the holiday. Buying stuff that people don't need shouldn't be one of our stresses. I learned 401ks and IRAs are not enough to retire on. You know, when I started, I was told you have to invest in 401ks so you can retire, but at the time I didn't really want to give to it because I had no plans to stop working. Your 20s turn into 30s, your 30 turns into 40, and every year you just want to work less. But companies pitch 401ks mainly because it's a lot of tax benefits for them. The problem though with 401ks is you can't access the 401k until you're of retirement age. So if you hoped, and you're hoping to not have to work to your retirement age, you need a different plan. Unfortunately, I learned that at about 30 years old. I didn't have a different plan. So in the last 10 years, I was able to dramatically turn around my life and make a significant impact. I now use something called a brokerage account, which I won't go into length on this video. There's plenty of better videos and content out there on what a brokerage account is, but I buy something called a low-cost index fund, and I purchase them every single, basically, paycheck. In a nutshell, it invests in every stock in the US stock market, and I can pull money from there where I need to. The tax rate for anything that it pulls that's been in there a year is 15% of the earnings, which you can live off of if a hardship happened. The amount of people that come to me that I've worked with that have had financial issues or been laid off, that it's like, hey, can I access my 401k? And the answer is like, not really. I mean, you could, there's penalties, but there's all sorts of other things. Basically, a brokerage account will allow you to become your own bank. So if you can invest enough over 10 years, like, you won't have to borrow money from a bank ever again. You won't have to wait till retirement. It will also be your early retirement plan. I'm at this point pretty much financially independent, and I recreationally work with a job I love, so I don't at the moment see myself wanting to retire. But you know, when I up and left my last job, I knew I had that as a backup plan, was my brokerage account, that I could live off of that, and it's going to be taxed lower than, you know, an earning paycheck anyway. So there's so many great possibilities, but know that a 401k and an IRA is not enough. Use something like a brokerage account or other different ways, but you need a different plan if you don't want to work till the retirement age. Embrace minimalism. So, first of all, I am not a minimalist. I'll start with that. But hopefully I'm not alone with this. If it's not a healthcare facility in my area, it's a storage facility being built. And the brutal honest truth is people just have way too much crap and overconsume. So again, I'm not a minimalist, but I have read many, many books, and I do a lot of research to learn and adopt a lot of different philosophies with my lifestyle. I try to be mindful of overconsumption. An example is I buy a nice sweater that will last me 10 years versus something that's on sale that might not last. If we bring something new in, like we replace something, we try to donate or give away our last item. We do our best to keep things that we own down to a minimum. It creates a lot of flexibility, less stress in our life, and it kind of is an easy way for you to kind of reduce your spending by being mindful of how much stuff you and crap you have. It's so important to learn as many different ways of living, to constantly look for ways to reduce stuff and cost and purchases in your life. And I'm always looking to learn from others, so if I'm not alone in the minimalism, leave me a comment below. $1,000 emergency fund is not enough. And it's kind of become the benchmark for what you should have as an emergency fund. It just doesn't go very far, especially nowadays. And I think if you're someone that's paycheck to paycheck, it's a good start, but it's not a great long-term plan. Because if something happened, like a water heater goes in your house and you only have $1,000, well, you're now using credit cards. So the point to me of an emergency fund is something that you won't have to rely on credit cards in many situations. I think everyone should have a different goal, and there's no right or wrong answer with it. And I wish more people would be open to the idea that everyone should probably have a different level of emergency fund based on their own comfort level. So we divided between our checking and a high yield savings. So some of that is earning money, but we have one full year's salary, not after taxes, but before taxes, saved up. And that is our emergency fund. Some of you will think that's nuts, and that's fine. Again, it's what works for us, where we feel comfortable with. My wife is a little more cautious than I am. And with my medical issues, I used to have a job that basically reorged me every year. I worked there 20 years and was reorged 14 years. So every year I felt like I was going to be reorged. That's why we wanted a lump sum of 1 year's salary saved up. Because we knew if this was the year I'm reorged, we're covered. We'll probably keep it that way, even though I've now at a different job. We just kind of gotten used to that. So for us, anything that goes over that year's salary, we just invest. But based on your emergency goals on enough, maybe you are somebody in your situation that has an HVAC issue that will eventually need to be addressed. Or maybe you have a roof. Or you're like me and you work in a job that's high turnover. Maybe you have no real issues and you don't need a lot, and 1,000 is enough. It really all depends. But in most cases, $1,000 is not enough to cover an emergency today. Walk more. Maybe I'm not alone here, but every commercial building that's not a storage unit is a healthcare building. And the only thing more expensive than food right now seems to be healthcare. The easiest and most effective way to stay lean and healthy is to walk more. It's free. It also has some of the best thinking and conversations I've had with my wife and my daughter. Helps us keep off our phone, which leads us to usually purchasing less. So what I would recommend to all of you is just walk more. I've been able to keep the same weight for about 12 years, mainly because I walk a couple miles every single day. So get off your phone, get off your TV, get off social media, and enjoy this beautiful life we have. See some nature. After you finish this video, of course, and make sure you like it. You see what I did there? One con, in my opinion, debatable, is you will debate your purchases too much. So once you've been living below your means for a while, you will begin to overthink spending. And again, I wouldn't say it's a good thing. I think when I was more impulsive with my spending, I usually would think about my purchases after the fact. Mostly when the credit card bill came is kind of when reality would set in, where I shouldn't have bought that. Now I'd say it's paralysis by analysis, meaning I spend way too much time thinking about making it the right and perfect decision. I call it the frugal bliss point, where value and cost and practicality all meet up. I don't eat potato chips, but it's generally just the right amount of salt and crunch. Well, when you have been living off less, you start building that same type of thought process like a potato chip. It's got to be the right balance. It's got to have the right amount of value and the right amount of practicality. Sometimes it takes up way too much space in my mind on decision making. And living below your means feels like that should be not stressful, but making purchases kind of becomes stressful, and it's self-induced. So an example, by saying we, I mean I, wanted and needed to upgrade one of our fish tanks. We have a couple in our house. We have several large fish that are outgrowing their tank. I wanted it too. We needed it, but I took a year to make up my mind. I looked at every possible combination, every option to find like the perfect combo of like, do I want this versus don't want to overpay. I would say every day I fed the fish, it was on my mind, looking at the tank, and it took up way too much space in my head. That would be advice I give to you, is don't overthink it, even though I do. You just have to make a decision and move on if it's something you need and something you want, and don't overthink it too much. By the way, I ended up buying it. It's great, and I said I should have done this a while ago. I knew this was the tank 6 months prior, but I stretched it out for 6 months. Stupid. Let me know what's the best advice for someone trying to live below their means, and please check out this video here on how I became so frugal.